So I've been an Airbnb host for about 7 months. I made previous videos on how I bought the house, how it's cash flowing, like I showed my actual booking sheets and my cash flow sheets and my P&Ls and my balance sheets, whatever. So I've showed videos on that. I've been a host for 7 months. I'm a super host. I've, done well. I've never had a guest complain. I've always had, good communication. I pride myself in responding right away. But, I want to make sure I'm providing a good stay. And at the same time, I, occasionally travel and I use Airbnb. Last week I went to Dallas for a Tony Robbins event, UPW if you've ever been. Crazy event. Highly recommend it. Amazing atmosphere. Just really changed my mindset and just how I look at life. And a lot of people hype it up as like being life-changing. I went into it not expecting it to be, and it was, but that's not what this video is about. Maybe I'll make future videos on that, but look into UPW, Tony Robbins, great event. And this week was interesting because I had probably the worst experience staying in an Airbnb. And then while that was happening, I had my worst experience hosting a guest in an Airbnb. Airbnb is almost dead to me. I'm hoping this video doesn't sound like I'm just complaining, because I want this to be, kind of educational and, just a productive discussion on what my current stance is on Airbnb for hosting and for staying. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we'll start with me staying in an Airbnb. I went to Dallas, got an Airbnb in an apartment complex. It was a little weird because like the host was like, don't go to the front desk, don't do this, don't do this. So what I assume is they're renting an apartment and they're just arbitraging and Airbnb-ing it, and the rental doesn't allow it. That's kind of like the vibe I was getting. They had no reviews. The price was cheap. It was like $130 a night. All the other ones in downtown Dallas were like $170 to $200. So I'm like, it seems like a nice apartment. It looked, it didn't look amazing, but it looked, decent. So I was like, screw it, I'll stay there. Fly into Dallas, the check-in's at 4 p.m. We meet the host. He actually lets us check in at 3 p.m., so an hour early, which was nice. It's me and my business partner. We get to Dallas, put our stuff down, immediately leave, go get lunch, go to the grocery store, and then, just kind of get ready for like the next 4 or 5 days. So we get snacks and like just some other random stuff. We come back that night, so it's probably like 7, 8 p.m. We come back, and then he goes to lay down in bed, and he's like, yo, there's like a bunch of hair on my bed. And then I go to my bed, and there's a bunch of hair and makeup stains and lipstick stains and like maybe even like a little bit of blood. I can't tell if it's blood or lipstick stains on my bed. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? And both of our beds are like that. The couch is also like dusty and gross. It was disgusting. I messaged the host. I'm like, yo, like, what's going on here? Like, you guys not check this stuff? And then the host starts arguing with me. I'm like, bro, what is going on? I'm like, I was really cool. I'm like, yo, like, the Airbnb has dirty beds. Like, this place clearly wasn't cleaned. I'm a host too. Like, I know sometimes stuff happens, but like, what happened here? Can you send the cleaners and redo it? And he starts arguing with me. He's like, no, it was cleaned. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, dude, I just need a clean bed. Like, I am going to this event all day. Like, I'm not hanging out here. And he starts accusing me of making the beds dirty and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't benefit me in any way. Like, why would I make these beds dirty? I need a place to stay. Like, I don't want a refund. I just need a place to stay. So I call Airbnb support. And Airbnb support sees I'm a super host, and I assume they'll help me, either cancel this and find a new place, or they'll do something. And then Airbnb support, I talk to, Airbnb support is 50-50. Sometimes you get somebody good, sometimes you don't. And the person I was talking to sounded decent. So then they call the host, they put me on hold, they call the host, and then they call me back. And they start saying that the host says that it was clean, and the host says that I made it dirty on purpose. So it's like, bro, are you kidding me? And it's like 9, 10 p.m. and I'm waking up at 6 a.m. the next day. Not only do I want to be in like a good headspace to this event and go to sleep early, now I'm getting like, my adrenaline is going, I'm like in an argument that I don't want to be in. So that first night we actually end up sleeping on those disgusting beds. It was horrible. And Airbnb support was completely useless. The host did the next morning, drop off some new sheets, which were brand new, which is good because they're brand new, like from Walmart. They're in the Walmart bags and stuff. But it's also bad because like I don't want to sleep on brand new sheets. Now they're like all chemically, and I don't have time to wash them. So it's either sleep on these dirty ones or sleep on chemical ones. And that first night we slept on the dirty ones. and all the other nights we ended up sleeping in the chemical ones. Airbnb support never came to my side. They just kept saying I made them dirty, even though I sent them pictures, but because there was like a 5-6 hour window from check-in to there, they said that I did that, and it was ridiculous. By like 10-11 p.m. that first night, I was like, dude, I don't even care. Like, this isn't worth my energy. So that was a terrible guest experience I was having. One thing I realized was the host was like a corporation, was like a company. I think the hack as a guest, if you're staying in an Airbnb, is to stay in an Airbnb that's hosted by an individual. So like my Airbnb is hosted by me, I respond, but this one was hosted by a company. So, you know, they have a whole bunch of Airbnbs, they're corporate, they don't care. You know, it is what it is, it's just another property. Where me, you know, like I care a little bit more. My experience as a host was interesting. So I had a guest check in that same day. Guest checks in, no problems. I actually let them check in early and I didn't charge them a fee, which I normally do, but they're visiting like their daughter or something, so I was like, all right, cool, I'll let you guys stay. They check in, and it was weird because that night at like 11-12 p.m. on my Ring camera, like I'm seeing them wash their car. I'm like, bro, like who washes their car like that late? But I was like, I don't care, you know, as long as they checked in and they're good. The next day I send the guests the first night stay. I'm like, hey, thanks for staying, I hope you had a good night. They don't respond at all. Like the guests that are staying at my house don't respond at all, and they stayed for probably 5 days, I think, and they didn't message me like at all during this whole time to complain, to say anything. And like I have a bunch of automated messages that go out, so like that first night and then like the third night and then before checkout, and then checkout I have automated messages, and they're just not really responding. I think maybe they said like okay or like yes a couple times, but that was it. So I just assumed that that's going fine. So I go to the event's great, and I come back and it's time to check out of the Airbnb. So I check out of the Airbnb I'm staying in, go to the airport, and then while I'm at the airport, the guest is also checking out. Coincidentally, you know, both at the same time. The guest leaves a review like a few hours after checking out, and I'm like, oh, awesome, like we didn't have any problems, like I assume it's gonna be a good review, we had no issues. And sometimes it's hard to get reviews out of guests. If you're a host, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, cool, let's go. Before I can see the review, how Airbnb review system works is to see the guest review, the host has to leave the guest review, and for the guest to see the host review, the host has to leave a review of them. So it has to like correlate, basically, like both parties have to leave each other a review to see the other party's review. So I see he leaves me a review, I leave him a great review. I'm like, yo, guest was great, like no problems, like would love to host again. And I assume, you know, same thing for him, you just stay in my house, no issues. And this guy leaves me all 1 and 2 star reviews for every single category. And I see that, I'm like, what? You just stayed in my house for 5 days, had no issues, leaves me 1 and 2 star reviews in every category. And then Airbnb support sends me a message a couple minutes after and says my listings average view went so low that my listing got suspended. So my listing got suspended for like a week and change, and now I have this really bad review on my listing. So of course I call Airbnb, I try to fight it, I try to dispute it. This is about 2 weeks after it happened. Right now my Airbnb listing is back, but I never got that review removed. Airbnb refused to see my side, and the review is the most ridiculous review too. I'll put the review here so you can see it. He said, the property is not in a safe neighborhood. Upon arrival, it was not clean, dirt, dust, and cobwebs. Dishes were dirty and only dirty sponge available to clean them myself. The shower leaked the entire time we were there. I would not stay here again. I messaged him, I'm like, bro, if you had this many issues, why didn't you come to me? I would have, you know, fixed this. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean the house was dirty? Like, I had cleaners there right before. And he sends me these pictures of the house dirty. Look at this. He's like, I feel like I rated everything fine. If we could have afforded to stay somewhere else, we would have. House was dirty and made us feel uncomfortable. Didn't have supplies to clean, so I had to buy some myself. And this is ridiculous because I do have supplies to clean. They're underneath the kitchen sink. But he never messaged me to ask, because he just assumed that I didn't because they weren't on the counter. Like, it makes no sense. And then these are the pictures he sends. He says the shower was leaking. Okay, but he didn't turn off the shower properly. I had my contractor go there after, and he just didn't turn off the shower correctly. So the shower turned off fine. Let's say even if it didn't, why does that warrant a bad review? If anything, I'm the one getting screwed, paying a huge water bill. Like, that doesn't affect you. Okay, and then here's the pictures he sends me. He sends me these pictures of the windowsill with some dust on them, which I do agree shouldn't have dust, but you're not eating food off the windowsill. You're there for 5 days, bro. It's not a big deal. And then he sends me these pictures of like 3 leaves and then a couple more things. Then this picture with the cord, this is the AC cord. You just have to push the cord. It got, it got messed up when the cleaners made the bed, I guess, and it just went on there somehow. But you just have to push the cord off. And he gets mad over this stuff. And bro, it just like blows my mind that this guy can write a 1 and 2 star review on my property for it not being clean when this is the stuff that he's complaining about. The windowsill had some dust on it, which should be cleaned, I will agree, but like, come on, bro, you're there for 5 days, you're not eating food off the windowsill, it doesn't matter. There's some leaves on the floor, okay, yeah, like the leaves shouldn't be there, but it's 3 leaves. It's like ridiculous. But the part that really like rubbed me the wrong way was he put, this property is not in a safe neighborhood, which is completely inaccurate because I've had the listing for 7 months, never had any safety issues, like major safety issues. He stayed there for 5 or 6 days, had no safety issues. He washed his car in the middle of the night twice with no safety issues. So if you're in an unsafe neighborhood, why would you wash your car twice in the middle of the night? It doesn't make sense. So I don't want to ramble on this topic. It just wanted to show you guys like how ridiculous some of these guests are. And then going back to my story, staying in the house, I'd even leave a review. Because my review would have been so negative of the house I stayed in. But like, it's just ridiculous that this guy can leave me a review like this. He put 1 star for communication. I responded right away the whole time. He put 1 star for check-in. I let him check in like 3 hours early for free. He put 1 star for everything and 1 and 2 stars. And it's just like, bro, it's not even fair. And my listing gets suspended for a week or 2 as a result of that. Airbnb doesn't care. So I get screwed on the guest side because Airbnb sides with the host saying that I messed up the beds. And then I get screwed on the host side, Airbnb saying that the guest didn't do anything wrong and it's a fair review. And I disagree with both. So to sum this up into a few points so I don't go too long, the reason why I don't like Airbnb is for 3 main reasons. The first reason, Airbnb is just straight up expensive. As a host, there's a lot of fees that you're paying. I have to pay my water bill, my electric bill, my internet bill. I have to pay my cleaners. I have to pay, all this stuff, repairs, and just a lot of like ongoing maintenance, contractors, small things, small fixes, things going wrong. There's a lot of wear and tear that happens on the house. Like my patio door just broke the other day. I had to pay $100 to fix it. It's just like a lot of like just small bills that add up. And because I'm so far away that I have to rely on the contractors to do it. And then on the guest side, why I'm not going to be staying in Airbnbs anymore is that stuff's expensive too. I'm a host, so I could see what guests pay, and half of that what they're paying doesn't even go to me. Let's say somebody's staying with me for a month, they're paying like $4K. I'm getting like $2,000, And when I stayed in the house in Dallas, bro, like I paid ridiculous fees. Almost half of the booking was in fees. I paid like $900 and like $400 was fees. So like that adds up. So it's expensive as a host and it's expensive as a guest. And as a guest, like it just doesn't make sense to stay there. Like why would you? It's almost the same price of a hotel and you can get almost a better experience in a hotel most of the time with, seeing how bad these hosts are nowadays and just how horribly decorated these houses are, and just somebody goes to IKEA and just grabs some stuff and it just doesn't have any like, character to it. My house in Tampa has character. Like it looks cool. Like it has nice, it's a good vibe. I really tried. The second reason is you have no control as a host or even guest. Me as a guest, bro, I'm screwed. That night, it's 10 p.m. I'm not gonna find anywhere else to stay unless I go to a hotel, but it's just like, bro, like I already have all my stuff here. So like I had to stay there. They put me into a bubble and I had to just suck up the circumstances and sleep in these disgusting beds. And then as a host, you have no control. Your listing can get suspended. My listing got suspended for 1 bad review. I've been on Airbnb for 7 months, I have all 5-star reviews. 1 bad review that's ridiculously unfair, I get suspended, and Airbnb doesn't care. So you have no control, and you need control if you have a business. You need to be able to rely on the system, rely on cash flow, rely on money. And if Airbnb can just suspend you like that, or Airbnb can just change how much money you're making, like, bro, you have no control. The rating system on Airbnb is so bad that somebody can just leave a bad review because they don't like one small thing and your whole listing is done. And the third reason, and it kind of falls into the other reasons, is it's just unpredictable. And there's just too many factors that just make me not feel comfortable. As a host, the current market and people not staying in Airbnbs and not traveling. And as hosts, you know, you getting screwed with bad guests and having a lot of liability. And there's just so much turnover that anything can happen. You can have 5 people staying in your house in 1 month, and just one bad person can throw off your house for a year. And there's just always something. There's always some drama. I'm telling you, always some drama. If you have an Airbnb, you know what I'm talking about. Like one of my buddies, he had some ladies staying in his house here in Fort Lauderdale, and one of the guests was larger. They sit on the toilet seat and they break the toilet seat in half. And then she called Airbnb support and said that when they got there, the toilet seat was broken, and then that she cut her butt on the toilet seat. But there's just so much like BS that can happen. But I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's just some reasons. You know, just pricing is just expensive. There's too much liability. One complaint can just ruin your listing. One guest can ruin your listing. The rating system sucks. You have no control. And you can just really get into a weird spot. I hope this video made sense. That's kind of like my current stance on Airbnb. It's changed a little bit over the past few months, where a few months ago I was like, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. And now it's like, oh, you know, I've seen both sides of this now, and I'm not as hot as I used to be. So I'm really gonna start pushing these medium-term rentals, and I think I'm gonna throw my house on Zillow for rent and just see if I can get a long-term rental as a furnished rental. And they just stay in the house and I don't have to deal with it. But that's kind of my stance. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you kind of like kicking Airbnb out like me? Are you still gonna be doing this? Are you still gonna be staying in Airbnbs? Let's keep this discussion, because I think this is something that hasn't really been spoken about on both sides. Let's see where this goes, because maybe Airbnb can fix itself. Right now it's in a weird spot and I'm not too happy with, you know, where it's at.